Autumn is definitely here. It rained all day yesterday, and today we've been out picking beautiful autumn leaves in the windy weather. In honor of Socktober, I have put together an episode on Scrappy socks. And the reason for this is here beside me, because this is my box of sock yarns. I mean, I have more sock yarns, but then these are the ones that are intended for sock knitting, because the other ones I have in a sweater's quantity, so I'm not gonna show you those. And as you can see, I have a lot of scraps. I mean, I don't think I have 100 grams of any of these yarns. It's like this, and this is almost a full 50-gram ball, but it's not enough for a whole pair of socks. So yeah, this is almost 100 grams. A full skein, a leftover from Halloween knitting last year. So as you can see, I'm in dire need of some patterns to make scrappy socks with. And hopefully some of you out there have the same kind of problem. Because if you've been knitting a lot of socks, this is what eventually happens. And I have been a good girl, I haven't been buying a lot of sock yarns lately. Hi, hello, and welcome to Knit in the City. I am Rebecca, and the city is an aspiration. Today I am wearing my porcelain sweater. I'm not going to be talking about that today. I will link to the pattern in the description box, and I can also link to my Ravelry project if you want to check that out. I have 20 patterns to talk about today, and the first 12 are paid for patterns, and after that I have 8 patterns that are free patterns, so I will be talking about them in that order. I will also be talking about these patterns without having made a script beforehand, with all the facts about these socks, and I'm a little bit nervous about that because that's not how I normally do things. There are just not enough hours in the day anymore. For some reason the days became shorter. No, I actually started working more, so that is the reason for that. I still want to put these episodes out, and so I'm hoping for the best. Okay, I'm gonna dive right in. The first pattern is actually multiple patterns in one, and that is the Summerland sock set from Sock Queen Summer Lee. She also has a book out that's been out for a while, I think. In this pattern bundle there are 5 different designs. These socks either have stripes or stranded colorwork. They are knit top down. Some of them have heel flap and gusset, and some of them have afterthought heels. They are all knit cuff down, just the way I like it. They're knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.25mm and 2.75mm needles, which is a US 1 and 2. They come in 4 different sizes, S to XL. The next pattern is the Thulite Light by Alison Lute, and this is such a cute, colorful sock made with stranded colorwork. This is knit cuff down, the way I like it. The sock has a short row heel. It is knit on 2.25mm needles, which is a US 1, and it comes in 4 different sizes, and it's knit in a light fingering weight yarn. And this is a fairly new pattern, or it is a really new pattern actually. It came out in September of this year. The next pattern is the Triangle Scrappy Socks by Liz Harris, and I think I have another Liz Harris pattern in this roundup. And these cute triangles are made with all over stranded colorwork. It's knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.25 and 2.75mm needles, a US 1 and 2. It comes in 3 different sizes, one of which is a double size, the first one, so it goes from SM to an XL. This has a very special heel construction, and I'm not sure how this is made, but it looks really exciting. The next pattern is the Hilma Mosaic Socks by Yvonne Choi, and this is actually a crocheted sock which is something I don't feel confident enough to try, but I'm sure there are a few of you out there that are also really good at crocheting. And it has the same look as the mosaic knitting, but I'm not sure how this is made. These are shorty socks. They are knit on a 3mm hook. They're not knit, they're crocheted on a 3mm hook. And they come in, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different sizes. So there's a generous size range for these socks. The heel construction just says other heel, and I don't know how you make heels in crocheted socks anyway. The next ones are the Scrappy Good Time socks by Crystal T Knits. These are knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.25mm needles or US 1. They come in 3 sizes, S to L. They have a heel flap and gusset, and they are knit top down. And they have a lot of different stripes, so you could just get a lot of different colors in here. The next one is the My Wabi Sabi socks by Mia Dema. And these have a simple stranded colorwork motif. They are also knit top down in a fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm needles, which is a US 1.5. They have a heel flap and gusset, and I really like these like pastel neon ones that she has made. The next one is also a bundle, and in this bundle you will get 3 different patterns, each with their own names. So there are the crystalline socks, the agate socks, and the fairy ring socks in this bundle. They're all knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm needles or US 1.5. They come in 4 different sizes, S to XL. And these are knit cuff down, but there is a similar bundle, I mean with the same patterns, but they're knit toe up. So you can choose your own adventure. And these 3 patterns have different levels of difficulty when it comes to the color work. So, and they are all quite easy, but the crystalline socks are the easiest. The agate are a little bit more difficult, and then the fairy ring socks are the most difficult, but still easy enough. So the next pattern are the Painting Bricks socks by Stephen West. And these are super colorful, but if you would like to tone them down, you could use a more neutral color for the base color. These are part of a collection called West Knits Year of Socks, and it contains 13 different sock patterns. These are knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.25mm needles or US 1. They come in 5 different sizes. They're knit cuff down. It looks like they have a heel flap and a gusset, but the heel flap is knit in garter stitch instead of your usual slip stitch pattern. The next pattern I really love. These are the Wimbledon by Rebecca Mouser. And they are super colorful, and I love that the sole has a different color. And I'm happy to read that there is no intarsia involved in knitting these socks, but they have a very special construction. They're knit in a light fingering weight yarn on 2.25mm or US 1 needles. They come in 6 different sizes from kid to adult, and they're just really cute, and I would love to knit myself a pair. It actually says that during Socktober of this year, all of this designer sock patterns are 25% off. So if you feel like getting this pattern, now is probably a good time. The next pattern is the Scrappy Lines socks by a designer whose name I don't want to butcher. It's going to be on the screen. These ones are also knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm or 1.5 US needles. These come in European sizes between 36 and 43. And if I count that out, that makes it 8 different sizes. This is very simple color work. It is just a fancy stripe with some, I think they are eyelets, but I'm not sure. They're knit cuff down. They have a heel flap and gusset. The next pattern is the Scrappy ski socks, and I really love the motifs on these ones. Here she used 3 colors, but you can of course use more if you have more scraps you want to get rid of. These are knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm or US 1.5 needles. They come in 3 different sizes, from teen to adult male. I also made a version with neon colors in it, and that has more colors. These are knit cuff down and they have a short row heel. The next pattern is the Scrap Eater socks by Fräulein Stettisch, and these are knit in a fingering weight yarn. These are actually using intarsia, but I think if I want to dive into that, I think a sock is a good project to start with. These are knit on 2.5mm needles or US 1.5. They come in 4 different sizes and they have a short row heel. These are knit toe up, but since they're intarsia, it's still very scary. So I think it's fine with the toe up thing. I can handle it when it's already a challenge. And now we're going into the free pattern section, and the first pattern here is the Scrappy Block Socks by Liz Harris. And these are really cute, and they incorporate so many different colors, which is great for my little scrap bags. So these are knit in a fingering weight yarn, like it seems like all of these are. I think that's how I picked them. I really like the fingering weight ones because you can wear them in your shoes, which is what I do. I almost exclusively wear hand knit socks during winter. These are knit on 2.25 and 2.75mm needles, which is a US 1 and 2. They come in 2 different sizes, M and L. They are knit cuff down, and they have a heel flap and gusset, and they also have an extra wide toe. The next pattern has a really pretty stranded color work with different sections, and they just come off really differently depending on which yarns you use. There are these light ones, and then the darker ones look completely different. And they're knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm needles, which is a US 1.5. They are knit cuff down and they have a short row heel. The next pattern is the Le Gourmand by the Noble Thread, and these really look like candy in these beautiful pastel Eastery colors. They are knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm needles or US 1.5. They come in 3 different sizes, adult, small to large. They are knit cuff down and they have a heel flap and gusset. The next ones are the Fairy Glen socks by the Noble Thread. These are really beautiful lace socks with a very simple lace motif. And between those lace sections there are garter ridges, and here you can use up a whole lot of different colors. They are knit in a light fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm or 1.5 US needles. They come in so many sizes, 11 different sizes. So I am assuming that some of these are children's sizes, but I can't see from the pattern specs. The next pattern is the Nordic Socks by Morgan Cornitz, and these are also knit in a fingering weight yarn on 2.25 and 2.75mm needles, which is a US 1 and 2. They come in 3 different sizes, S to L, and I like that these give off such a geometric graphic pattern, which would probably look different with more bold colors. These have an afterthought heel and they are knit cuff down. I have picked a lot of cuff down patterns because that's the way I prefer to knit my socks. The next ones are a pair of shorty socks that I have actually made myself. It's the Confetti Cake Socks by Isabel Stokes. This is a very simple stranded color work. You do 1 row of color work, then the stripe, and then another row of color work, and then there are a few rounds in the main color between the colored stripes. They are knit top down and they have a short row heel. When I knit these, I made a heel flap and gusset instead because my heel is too big to fit into a short row heel. It just doesn't work for me. The next pattern is the Kalaveren Alot by Valeria Kerke. And I actually googled this. The name of these socks actually mean the waves of Kalavesi, which is apparently a lake in Finland. And this lace pattern is actually resembling waves. They're knit in a light fingering weight yarn on 2.25 millimeter or US 1 needles. They only come in one size, which is a medium or a European size 38. They have a heel flap and gusset, and I actually don't know if these are cuff down or toe up socks, but you could just download the pattern and find out easily because these are part of the free pattern category. So we have now reached the last pattern, and that is the Fraternal Twins by Deborah Tomasello. And these are knit in a fingering weight yarn. These are so fun. You could just use up so many different colored scraps, but you could of course also tone it down if that's what you like. So yes, fingering weight yarn on 3.25 millimeter needles or US 3, so these needles are bigger. These come in, and now I have to do some counting because they didn't write it out. One. Okay, it's just 3 sizes, woman and teen, from small to large. These are knit cuff down, and they incorporate stranded color work. And I'm not sure how the heel is made. You can't really tell from the pictures. But same as the previous patterns, these are free, so you could easily check it out. I should have done that before I started filming, but I just felt like I had to do this today. So that's all I had to talk about. I hope you were inspired to use up your scraps, and I wish you a happy Socktober and a lovely autumn with lots of knitting. See you in the next episode. Bye bye!